Uh, Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Well, I wanted to talk about something in relation to a couple of things. I want to talk about the TV show Paranormal Lockdown. This show had Christina Weidman and Nick Groff in it. Nick Groff was originally with Ghost Adventures, and I'm going to talk about Ghost Adventures a little bit too in this video, because what it is, I'm going to start with talking about Ghost Adventures and then talk about Paranormal Lockdown. Nick Groff was originally on Ghost Adventures before he went to Paranormal Lockdown. Nick was in the first 10 or 11 seasons of Ghost Adventures. And Ghost Adventures is still on the air, where Paranormal Lockdown was only on for 3 seasons. Because Nick is doing Deathwalker now, the TV show Deathwalker. Well, one thing I have to say about Ghost Adventures is, and this involves Nick Groff, Zach Bagans, who is the host of the show, that man is fascinated with hearing his own voice. I mean, he really is. At least that's how it looks to me. Because, I mean, he's just on and on and on. Yap, yap, yap. Yap, yap, yap. You know, and if Zach ends up watching this, not to sound mean, but I think he should let somebody else, like, he should step back and let, like, Aaron or Jay Wesley or Billy Tolley actually host the show and switch spots with him. Because I know there was one episode, like, I think in, like, season 3 or 4, maybe, or season 2, where Nick Groff and Zach Bagans switched spots. And, oh my God, that was, like, my favorite episode, because you could tell it was just chafing Zach. Because he wanted to talk. And, you know, Nick actually did a really good job hosting that one episode of Ghost Adventures back in the day. Yeah, and I'm not saying it to be mean-spirited against Zach. Zach's okay. Zach is Zach. You know, or at least he was back then. But I haven't watched Ghost Adventures in, I'd say, 6 years or 7. Just because, well, they've went on to Discovery Plus, and I'm not paying, you know, like $7 or $12 to watch that one show and maybe Deathwalker. I mean, I'm sorry. I just, you know, I mean, you know, the day Discovery Plus starts offering a free one with, like, maybe ads, then maybe I might consider it. But don't hold your breath for that one. Just saying. Now, talk about Paranormal Lockdown. That show is totally different from Ghost Adventures for several reasons. It's like, for one thing, it's not Zach isn't on the show. He's still doing Ghost Adventures on Discovery Plus. Like I said, Nick Groff got off of Ghost Adventures around the 10th, 11th season. Nick is actually, I have to say, I like watching Nick because he's not fascinated with hearing himself talk. He lets everybody else talk, you know, and, like, say, okay, you know, your experience was what? And he lets the person talk, and he doesn't cut them off and do it like a voiceover or whatever like Zach does. Big, huge difference. Big, huge difference. And Katrina's actually pretty interesting, too, in this show. And I'm glad to actually see a girl on a Paranormal Lockdown show. Just saying, because, you know, I mean, there's girls that are into it. I mean, they did, like, when, I know I talked about this on my main channel, I think, or it was either on this channel or it was on my main channel, where I talk about the time that the Ghost Adventures crew did the 3-way call between Bobby Mackey's Music World, which is over here in Wilder, Kentucky, which is like maybe 5-10 miles from where I sit this very minute shooting this video, and the Winchester House out in San Jose, California, and the Washoe Club out in Nevada. And there was actually a girl at Bobby Mackey's the night they did that three-way call, and she got attacked down there in Bobby Mackey's, apparently on the show. And then Aaron Goodwin got attacked out there at the Winchester house out there in San Jose by a ghost that apparently came through the lines from Bobby Mackey's. And I thought, if that's what really happened, that's got to be interesting. With that aside, I wanted also to say here, and this goes into what I said in my notes for this video, I've published a book. It's on Mammoth Cave, and it's nonfiction, and it does have some ghost stories in it if you're interested. I know I talked about this on my main channel, but I wanted to talk about it on here in relation to Paranormal Lockdown. And the reason why I name it is because I was working on my second book today, as a matter of fact, and I'm talking about Paranormal Lockdown in it because I'm writing a chapter. My second book is on urban legends in Kentucky and a couple over in Ohio. But I'm talking about Waverly Hills, and I actually have been watching Paranormal Lockdown, and I'm including, where I talk about Paranormal Lockdown for the book. And, unlike when Nick was there with Aaron and Zach back in the day, down there in Louisville, when I was watching the episode with Nick and Katrina, it was actually, very well done. And it wasn't like, get in, and it was like nothing happened when Zach, Nick, and Aaron were there. But it was like, it was way more interesting when Zach and Katrina were there. Because it was like they spent 72. Nick and Katrina spent 72 hours straight through the place, and in the place, and, they actually, Nick and Katrina were like, what's this? And, they did, a whole thing about, they interviewed a guy that was talking about, he had something weird happen to him down in the body chute. He was sitting there, the guy's name was Bob, or I think it was Bob. And Bob was talking about, it was Ben. I'm sorry, it was Ben. I knew it was a B name. It was Ben. They were talking to a guy named Ben, and he was talking sitting down in the body chute, trying to see if I could catch anything on film. And, I heard shuffling feet, and the door, the heavy metal door slam that led back into the building. And they went down there to see if they could get anything. And then Ben was also talking about the fact that he was in room 502 upstairs on the 5th floor. And, he was trying to get a hold of the nurse that killed herself in 1928 by hanging. And they were talking about that, too. And I was talking about that in my book, in my second book, today. I haven't published that book yet because I'm still working on it, but, I wanted to at least, because I was thinking about that show, and I wanted to talk about Paranormal Lockdown here. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts. I don't believe that their spirits come back from the dead or whatever. It's just, I'm mainly, like I said, in this book that I'm working on, it's urban legends and ghost stories that people claim to have seen in places like Waverly Hills, or the Pope Lake Monster, or Bobby Mackey's. Bobby Mackey's is obviously in there. I talk about the Cincinnati Art Museum, and I tell the Hook. There's a version of the Hook in there, and I tell Hog Lady in the book. But yeah, it's just, I really wanted to say, if you're into the paranormal and that kind of stuff, where you find that kind of material interesting, I would rather you watch Paranormal Lockdown versus Ghost Adventures, just because Zach just, when you watch Ghost Adventures, it's let's all listen to Zach talk for 45 minutes. It's like, dude, why don't you hush and, let me, like, why don't you have somebody else talk? Or, it's like I said, you doing all the, like, talking for basically 45 minutes straight. Why don't we have somebody else talking? Because that's the one thing that I found boring about Ghost Adventures. But Paranormal Lockdown, it's like both Nick and Katrina actually talking. They let the other people talk too. And it's, I would rather, it's like I found that show, Paranormal Lockdown, worth a watch. But anyway, I'm going to stop here, and if I think anything else, soon I will, jump on here and share it with you. You all have a good evening.